The Board of Education makes available at least one current copy of the Open Meetings Act, which is posted on the west wall of the meeting room and accessible to all members of the public. Would you now stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance with me? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, being that it is January, it is time to nominate and elect a new president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, and the committees. So at this point, I will turn this over to Jason so we can get going on the president.
Okay, as per policy 9115, the Board of Education shall hold its regular annual organizational meeting in January, at which time it will elect its officers for the coming calendar year. So at this time, I would open the nominations for the office of the President of the Board of Education for District 15, Beatrice Public Schools for the 22-23 school year. Do I have any nominations?
I nominate Eric Trusty.
I have a nomination of Eric Trusty. Do I hear any other nominations? Hearing none, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by John Zimmerman. So I have a nomination of Eric Trusty by Doris, a second by John Zimmerman. All in favor, show your votes, please. Motion carried. So, congratulations, Eric. John, thank you for your service as president the last 4 years. So, with change in presidency being Eric Trusty, I now turn the meeting back over to you, and we need to take nominations for Vice President, Secretary, and Treasurer.
All right, thanks Jason, and first of all, thanks John for your years of service as a president and what you've done for us. So do we have any nominations for Vice President?
I nominate Doris Martin for Vice President.
A second.
Okay. And nomination for Doris and a second. All those in favor, please.
Ask for
Other nominations? Sorry. Okay. Seeing none, your votes, please. So moving on to Secretary.
I move that Jackie Nielsen, no, is that right?
Yep.
Okay. Be appointed as Secretary of the Board of Education.
Okay, we have a motion for Dr. Jackie Nielsen for Secretary. Do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have any other nominations? Okay, seeing none, your votes, please.
Motion carried.
Okay. And on to Treasurer.
I move that Jason Alexander be appointed as Treasurer of the Board of Education, contingent upon his ability to be bonded.
Second.
So we have a motion for Jason Alexander to be appointed as Treasurer and a second by Doris. Any other? Janet, sorry. I'll get this right one of these times. Any other nominations? Okay, seeing none, your votes, please.
Motion carried.
All right. Moving on to committee appointments. At this time, obviously just coming on to, as a president, I would like to table the committee appointments with the exception of the negotiations committee, because we are in ongoing negotiations currently with staff. So if that is okay, just table it to the next meeting so we can have some discussions to set those committee appointments. On the negotiations committee, Janet, Doris, and John, would you be willing to continue serving for this year? So we can
Yes.
continue that.
Well, I can finish out this current, but if negotiations run over, because I'll be off the board next year, so, so if it, you'd be down a person and only have two on the thing, so I can finish out if we need to.
And then we could just look at replacing at that point.
Yep.
Okay. Do we need a motion for?
Just a motion to table committees until the February meeting.
I make a motion to table the nominations for committees until the February meeting.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to table with the exception.
With the exception of the negotiations.
And a second to table to the February meeting. Any discussion around that? Okay, seeing none, your votes please.
Motion carried.
Okay, we will now move on to the consent agenda portion of the meeting.
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 approve the consent agenda as presented, including approval of minutes of the regular Board of Education meeting on December 13th, 2021, approval of the minutes of the Committee of the Whole meeting on December 2nd, 2021, approval of the proposed accounts for payment, approval of budgetary receipts and expenditures for December 2021, approval of option students, and approval of resignations of Kyler Urbanovsky, High School Special Education, and Ross Hoagland, Middle School Language Arts. And also excuse the absence of Aaron Chadwick.
Thank you, Doris. We have a motion on the consent agenda. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Janet. Any discussion? And Jason, do you have treasurer's report?
I do. So treasurer's report for the month of December. Expenses for the month, bills were $300,857. Payroll totaled $1,686,799, which brought total expenses to $1,987,656. Revenue for the month of January was $1,630,419.20, which is pretty typical for the month of January. We don't typically bring in as much revenue, especially after the tax changes that happened a couple years ago. But we are 1/4 of the way through the budget cycle, which means this is a good time to report on the fact that we've expended 31.33% of the budget, which is right on track. If we had spent all of our budget capacity for those 4 months, we'd be at 33.32. So we've underspent the budget so far in the first quarter of the budget cycle. And part of what's not in this budget report revenue-wise that you will see next month is we did receive our first reinstallment of, or reimbursement of the ESSERS funds, which totaled $747,000 and some change. So that will be, that actually means then once that revenue shows up, our revenue was actually more, but it just didn't come in time to make this report, so you'll see it in the month of February. So you'll be seeing that. Other than that, we're pretty much right on track where we need to be budget-wise.
Okay, thank you, Jason. Any other comments on the consent? Seeing none, I'll take your votes now for the consent agenda. Motion carries. All right, moving on to outstanding recognition. Employee of the Month, Dr. Nielsen.
And I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Hakey because he has a little bit of presentation to go with the Employee of the Month.
Officer Price, I don't think you knew you were coming up here, but. All right. Officer Tim Price is the January Employee of the Month, so this is fitting because yesterday was the National School Resource Officer Appreciation Day, so we timed this perfectly. So I got a little bit to brag on Tim. So, although Officer Price technically retired from his SRO position 10 days ago, we felt it was necessary to recognize the value he brought to Beatrice Public Schools at this month's school board meeting. Officer Price has been a tremendous asset to Beatrice Public Schools in the last 5+ years. He has been an approachable presence with a keen eye on student and staff safety. Officer Price could be seen in the hallways checking on students, after school directing traffic, or conducting many meetings with building principals discussing various situations throughout the school year. What many people do not see is the value Officer Price brought behind the scenes of the school day. If the school is apprised of a situation that could put students or staff in danger, Officer Price immediately began the process of investigating the situation and ensuring the campus is safe for the short and long term. He is thorough and never takes a shortcut when it comes to student safety. In fact, Officer Price is known to be creative when it comes to keeping our campuses safe. Last year, Officer Price coordinated with a parent and had them enter BMS wearing a GoPro to see how staff would handle a parent that didn't follow BMS visitor protocols. Officer Price used the footage to celebrate the things the staff did well and to point out the areas to improve upon. During the summer months, Officer Price worked with the Beatrice Police Department on active shooter trainings in the school setting, as well as updated all classroom and hallways with the changes made to our standard response protocol. Beatrice Public Schools is in a safer place because of the employment of Officer Tim Price. We wish him safety and nothing but the best as he departs BPS and returns to the road patrol. Thank you, Officer Price, and congratulations on this month's Employee of the Month. I think we've got a certificate up there.
Yep. Certificate. Fine. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Appreciate it. I need a picture of both of you guys. Okay. Thank you. Good.
Absolutely. The second part of this is Officer Nesbitt. Will you please come up front?
Go ahead.
So the second part of this is now that we say goodbye to Officer Price, we now have the pleasure to welcome Officer Nesbitt into Beatrice Public Schools. Officer Nesbitt has been a Beatrice police officer for the past 6 years. One goal in our newly adopted strategic plan was to recruit, hire, and retain high-quality staff. I think we've, without a doubt, accomplished the first 2 of those facets, hopefully the third one as well, which is the retain part of Officer Nesbitt. Beatrice Public Schools has now employed 2 full-time resource officers for over 5 years. Just as we strive to improve school and district academic performance, curriculum improvements, infrastructure improvements, we also seek improvements towards student and staff safety. Our SROs have the training and experience to see school safety from a different lens than those of us trained as teachers, and they're the conduit that helps us achieve that goal. On behalf of the Beatrice Middle School, Paddock Lane Elementary, Stoddard Elementary, Lincoln Elementary, and the Beatrice Community Preschool, I'd like to thank the Board of Education for allowing us to continue this partnership with Beatrice Police Department and keeping our kids safe. Officer Nesbitt, welcome aboard.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hickey. Now moving on to Business Friend of the Month, Mr. Alexander.
Okay, so as I come down, Chief Lang, if you'll come up, and Officer Nesbitt, Officer Price, you get to come back up. We practiced this multiple times.
Well-oiled machine, right?
Yeah, that's right. So, as everyone knows, we have gone to every month recognizing a Business Friend of the Month that helps our school function in the way that it does. And Business Friend of the Month has been typically people who either contribute to our students in one way or another, or financially help the district in some form or another. And this month seemed very fitting that we recognize the Beatrice Police Department for all they do for our students and staff. So we have a little bit of bragging to do about Beatrice Police Department and thanking them for what they do. When it comes to help and support with our families, our students, and our staff, the Beatrice Police Department is dedicated to support Beatrice Public Schools and our community in every fashion. Beatrice Police Department is a strong partner of Beatrice Public Schools. We want to spend some time highlighting the many things that this partnership with BPD provides for our students, staff, and community. And I emphasize the words community. First, school resource officers. As we have here tonight, we have some of the best SROs in the state. They truly care about our students, our staff, and our families. They build strong relationships to bridge the gap, sometimes found between law enforcement and students. This year, we have added another Beatrice Police Department member to our team, Officer Nesbitt, and we're excited to have her join and come aboard. One of the other facets that many people do not know that our police department helps us manage is the P3 campus reporting. This is an anonymous reporting system that our students can use to report bullying, abuse, drug abuse, alcoholism, anything that may be going on in their lives. They can report that anonymously, and if it happens to be in the hours after the hours that our staff may be in contact, the Beatrice Police Department plays an active role in monitoring that anonymous system for us and helping investigate situations that we are not able to investigate. The Southeast Communication Center monitors those messages after hours to ensure the safety of our students and our community. The Safety and Security Team and Threat Assessment Team. Many people don't know this exists at Beatrice Public Schools, and the Beatrice Police Department plays a very active role in helping us coordinate those two teams as well. BPD contributes to our safety teams with insight to guide us through the training and professional learning they receive. They are able to provide another angle for us to evaluate and consider when considering student safety. When the safety of our students and staff is a top priority, it is invaluable to have their support at these meetings, and they're always there whenever we call. Special Olympics support. Throughout the past years, we've seen some great teams from Beatrice Police Department compete against the athletes participating in our Special Olympics. A large number of the athletes are or have been Beatrice Public Schools students. This is just another way the BPD does a great job of supporting our schools and the community. Toro the dog. Do we need to say any more? What a great addition to the high school. He has provided another way to connect the police department in a very positive way and work to ensure student and staff safety. And trust me, Toro is a rock star at the high school. And finally, one of the other examples is Lunch with a Cop. In the past, every Friday, a different student would have a chance to go to lunch with a BPD officer and get to ride in the squad car, get taken out to lunch, and just enjoy some conversation with someone who truly cares about their success. In short, folks, we have safe and secure schools, and that's what our goal is because of a partnership between the City of Beatrice, the Beatrice Police Department, and Beatrice Public Schools. That's what every parent wants for their child, is a safe school. And we appreciate that partnership that helps us facilitate that as a school. So on behalf of our entire staff, all of our students, our school board, our community, thank you, Chief Lane, and all of your officers for all you do for us. Thank you. Appreciate you guys.
Hold on. One more.
All right, thanks, Jason, and again, thanks again, Chief Lang, Officer Price, Officer Nesbitt. Moving on to National Park Service Midwest Regional Heartsog Youth Group Volunteer Award. So we have a speaker, Amber Kirkendall. Kirkendall. Welcome.
Hello, thank you so much for having us here today. I'm honored to represent the team at Homestead National Historical Park and the National Park Service to present this award for the George Heartsog Award to the Beatrice High School Transitional Work Experience Program. Now, the Heartsog Award is given to volunteers. In 1970, the National Park Service started the VIP program, Volunteers in Parks. Now, George Heartsog was actually the head of the National Park Service when this started. There was only a few hundred volunteers. Now there's hundreds of thousands of volunteers all over the nation that volunteer to the National Park Service. When George retired, him and his wife remembered the volunteer program and gave a generous donation. And that fund is still used today to acknowledge the hard work of the volunteers. So every year, all of the National Park Service sites get an opportunity to volunteer, to nominate volunteers who have done amazing things at our parks. There's multiple categories, and we submit that to our region. And the team at Homestead National Historical Park decided that for 2020 that we were going to nominate what we affectionately call the Tuesday Kids for the Beatrice High School Transitional Work Experience Program. So we call them the Tuesday Kids because every Tuesday we know that we can expect hard work. They're going to show up at 2 p.m. And they're going to volunteer for us. Now, this program was started over 11 years ago by special education teacher Randy Diller with Superintendent Mark Engler and the staff at Homestead National Historical Park to give that work experience, that real-life work experience to the students. And they do so many different things at the park. They will help prepare for special events. I have been grabbing boxes recently as we are getting our winter festival going and helping put up signs. They actually will consistently change out batteries in our audio describers that make it so people who are visually impaired can experience our exhibits and the content of our exhibits. So there's so many different things that they do at the park. We get so much value. I know at different times we'll talk about like, hey, can I have the Tuesday Kids today? And hopefully, they find that same value as well. And, we at Homestead National Historical Park remember the many legacies of the Homestead Act of 1862. And, of course, the opportunity to earn 160 acres, but there's so many different legacies we remember. And one of those legacies is the value of education. We look at the Freeman School and the fact that it's made out of brick. And it really shows us how much they valued education, that they put their resources that they did have into that school. Also community. So actually for 2022, we are going to be celebrating for our yearly theme this idea of cultivating community. Because the Homestead Act really did bring people together. And this program, along with the other programs that we have with Beatrice Public Schools, whether that's field trips or water quality, having the volunteers and the Tuesday Kids, it really enriches the experience at the park, and it helps us cultivate community and help remember that legacy of the Homestead Act. So thank you so much, and we present you with this award.
Thank you.
And I'm so grateful to you and for everything that you do for the program.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Now, moving on to the information portion of the meeting, student update. Connor.
Okay, so starting with Stoddard and Lincoln, A bookworm vending machine was delivered on Friday and is set to be set up at Lincoln. I'll be honest, I had no idea what that was until today, so that's so cool.
It is very cool.
And then Stoddard starts their NSCAS testing this week. They're anticipating some high scores and excited to see what they can do from previous MAPS tests. So moving on to Paddock, house programs collected lots of money for food, for the community food pantry. And students who were chosen as caring within their classroom got to go deliver the food to the food pantry, so that was great. A virtual Christmas vocal music program was held and presented to the residents of Homestead House, Good Samaritan, and the Kensington on December 17th. That's really cool for them. A lot of those folks can't get out of where they're at, so it was great that our kids put that together for them. And then Awesome Office Visits awards were given for the second quarter, and the students receiving the award got a free book from their book vending machine. So, moving on to the middle school, girls basketball and wrestling seasons are underway. Competitions and games start next week. BMS is hosting the Mudecus basketball tournament this week, so that's a fun deal for them. 6th grade students took the NSCAS math test. They're waiting on their scores for that. And then this Friday, they'll hold their second quarter celebration where they'll recognize their students who achieved high grades and all that. And there are a lot of great prizes and sponsorships for that, so that's great. And then finally moving on to the high school, both basketball seasons are underway. Both of our boys and girls teams beat Seward this past Friday. Girls and boys wrestling is also underway. Girls ended 4th place in their last tournament, and the boys ended up winning our home invite, so that's fun. Swim and dive are both doing well. We have a great group of swimmers and divers from the schools that we combine with for that, so they're fun to watch. And then the Black Diamond dancers and cheerleaders have been great at the basketball games. They're awesome. They're working hard. Our band has also been great our pep band has been great at basketball games. And then show choir has been working hard. They're getting ready to compete here in, I think, late January, early February. And then spring sports are also starting conditioning and preparation for the upcoming season. So that's what I got.
Great, thank you, Connor. Now moving on to the board reports. Committee of the Whole. Doris.
There will not be a report since the meeting was held before the last board meeting.
Okay, thank you. Stance report, SNEA, Mr. Alexander.
Yeah, we'll start with stance. First of all, the NCSA leadership team, we met, Wednesday last week, the first day of the legislative session, and the NCSA legislative team provided an update and a preview of the coming session. Discussion about basic bill introductions was held, and after the first day, the main bill that was included in Educational Foundation was LB 678 by Senator Albrecht, which would eliminate the state board's ability to recommend standards in any area other than reading, language arts, math, science, or social studies. So we will be tracking that bill. At that point, we didn't have very many other bills to talk about because it was the first day of introduction. The last day of bill introduction will be January 20th, so we will be keeping an eye on the legislative bills that come forth. There is an update on the new TIOSA formula that was given by Dr. Troy Loffelholz from Columbus, and the bill that we will be looking at for the overhaul of the TIOSA formula is LB 890 in the Education Committee and LB 891 in the Appropriations Committee. So it's being introduced twice, and I'll go into more detail about that in my superintendent report. But the tentative hearing date for that is set for January 18th, so coming very quickly. New school states board member was appointed by Governor Ricketts is Kirk Penner from Aurora, and then there was discussion about the schedule for the winter and spring meetings and organizational for future meetings was all that was all discussed and held at that point as well. So that's the stance report. I think we have a leadership team meeting scheduled for every Friday at 3:45, and I'll be participating in that. So that's the stance report.
Okay, thank you, Jason. Now's the time for public forum portion of our meeting. Is there anybody in the public that would like to address the board?
SNEA, that's the next report.
Oh,
Yeah, that's okay. The Southeast Nebraska Education Agency, and pretty much we kind of tried to update you what was going to happen at this meeting prior to the meeting, but we met just before Christmas to approve the architectural firm BCDM as recommended and selected by the Board of Education. We approved the construction policies to reflect BPS 7000 series dealing with the CMAR, and discussed a few other topics, and that was the end of the SNEA meeting. Okay.
okay. All right. Now is the time for public forum. Is there anybody that would like to address the board at this time? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to the discussion portion of the meeting. Issue 5, Instructional Specialist Partnership. Dr. Nielsen and Mr. Alexander.
Okay, good evening. We have been working with issue 5 and the superintendent's issue 5 because a couple of things that we have been looking at are how do we help new teachers? We know that we are not in this boat alone. We know that there are an increasing number of retirements occurring, but there's also a diminishing hiring pool. And so we're all facing those pieces, and we all have to figure out how do we help our new teachers that are just coming on board? How do we ensure that they are going to be successful as we move forward and successful in everything that they do within the classroom? So one of the discussion points that we have had kind of as a superintendent team at ESU 5 is what do we do? What are some steps? What are some things that we could look at putting in place? One of the pieces that has come up with this brainstorming session is looking at instructional specialists. And how do we collaborate to do this? How do we work as an ESU to do it so it's not just Beatrice Public Schools, or it's not just Fairbury or Southern or Diller Odell or another school district. It's the partnership. So one of the things we just wanted to bring this kind of up, that we are having these discussions. We're working on this process just to see how it would evolve and what would it look like. Right now we do not have a lot of information, but we wanted to just make sure that you were aware that it is in conversations of how can we work together to put in supports for our new teachers across the ESU. So at this point in time, Mr. Alexander, do you have anything else to add?
I don't. I think you covered it very well, but are there questions about that at this point, or any other discussion you might have for us that you'd like us to consider?
No, I think it's a great idea to involve, look at, again, other avenues that we can pull this together and including the SU to kind of broaden that across other districts. Perfect.
So like you said, it's early in the game, but do you have any idea if this person would be an employee of the ESU, or how that salary would be divided? Would it be divided on based on the time that they spent in each of those districts? I guess, because the concern was when we were going to do this on our own was the expense, and obviously that's why we're wanting to collaborate with area school districts. But so I guess that's where I was going with that. Ultimately, how is that salary divided?
Absolutely, and that is one of the pieces that we're looking at, because we've met with Brenda in a couple districts last week. We're looking at meeting again this week, and the question becomes, okay, how much does every group put into the pot to help pay for this? And the rule of thumb is $25,000 gets you 1 day a week. And so those are the questions, do we do it based upon the number of new teachers that everyone has, and then kind of prorate it from there? Those are the things that we are still very early in conversations, but we just wanted to bring this topic up to the group just to say, hey, we're starting. Looking at it in a different way to make it sustainable, because we don't want to hire someone for a year or two and say, sorry, there's no more ESSER funding. There's no more funding available, and so we want to make sure that we find ways to make sure that it is sustainable.
the interesting part for us is we weren't the only ones talking about it. Once we actually went out and had the conversation with the ESU and the other area superintendents, many of them have similar concerns as we do as instructional leaders in our district, is that every year we see, we see a shrinking teacher pool available to us and more things to train teachers on and work with them on. And so this was a discussion that other schools had seen us had, and the discussion came up, and so we've been able to look at it from the standpoint of making it sustainable by involving more schools, and we'll see where it goes.
I guess, thinking back when we talked about it last year, the expense was part of it, but I think another concern was, could one person manage our entire district? And now you're looking at one person managing 4 or 5 districts, and how does that work? I mean, I guess I still have the concern about how thin can we spread this person and that they can still be effective.
And I don't know if it's going to be one person or if it's going to be multiple people. I mean, those are the conversations, what can we put together? What can we bring to the table to see how many? Because, ideally it might be one for K2, one for 3-5, one for 6-8, one for 9-12, so that you can kind of spread out and use the resources, but gear it towards that particular area, that particular level. So yeah, we are looking at those pieces too, because one, there's no way that one person could accomplish this all.
Because I think you're just setting them up to not be successful, and I don't want to do that to anyone either.
No, you are correct. So we will have a meeting, and then as we continue to move forward, we'll continue to update the board. So this probably will be on our committee of the whole agenda. Hopefully we'll have a lot more to discuss at that point in time, because we'll work through some pieces. So, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nielsen. Any other questions for? Okay. Next portion, discussion, is policy reading of first reading of Article 3, 8, and 9. I'm going to combine all 3 together, and Mr. Alexander.
Perfect. That's exactly where my thoughts were. The next 3 items do all go together, and I guess it's more of a reminder that these policy sections, Article 3, Business Operations, Article 8, Internal Board Policies, and Article 9, Bylaws of the Board of Education, are all in your hands. And we'll obviously have another chance to talk about them again at the Committee of the Whole meeting. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. But those 3 articles will be up for discussion at the Committee of the Whole meeting one last time, and then final reading will be the February board meeting. So just wanted to make sure that everybody remembers that. That's all I have.
Okay. Thank you, Jason. Moving on to the action portion of the meeting. So the first item, approval of Jason Alexander as the district's federal grant representative and financial representative. Do I have a motion?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 approve Jason Alexander as the district's federal grant representative and financial representative.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Janet. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, your votes please. Motion carries.
Motion carried.
Second item, approval of the depository banks for Beatrice Public Schools be named as Pinnacle Bank, Security First Bank, First National Bank of Omaha, Beatrice Branch, and Bank of the West. Can I have a motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 name the following as the depository banks for Beatrice Public Schools: Pinnacle Bank, Security First Bank, First National Bank of Omaha, Beatrice Branch, and Bank of the West.
Thank you, Doris. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Janet. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, can I have your votes, please? Motion carries 5-0 with 1 abstaining. Next item, reaffirm safe return plan.
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 reaffirm the safe return plan as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Eric. Thank you. Discussion.
I'll just give you a quick update on a few things. As you know, as we return to school this fall, we were required to write a safe return to school plan, and federal and state requirements mandate that we review that safe return to school plan at this point every 6 months. So this is the 6-month term. We don't have any recommendations for change of protocols at this time. Our numbers as of today currently show that we have 15 total positive cases in the district that we're aware of. We recognize that Omicron is spreading quickly, and we're monitoring it. We have daily conversations with the hospital. We also have weekly conversations again with Public Health Solutions. So they are anticipating an increase in numbers in the next 2 weeks, which is about as far out as we can estimate. So we'll monitor those numbers. We will continue to meet, have dialogue with PHS and ESU5 superintendents to monitor what they're seeing in their schools as well. But at this time, we have no recommendation for changes to the plan from us. And we'll answer any questions that you might have.
Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, I will take your votes on reaffirming the safe return plan. Motion carries 6-0. Thank you. Now on to the administrator's report section. Superintendent report, Mr. Alexander.
Okay, just a few things to update you on, and as you know through my superintendent updates, tried to keep you abreast of some of these items that we're working with. The first one is just talking about the Head Start, and as you know, Blue Valley Community Action is a federally funded program that we partner with to offer an additional 55 Head Start slots at our preschool. Because they are federally funded, they're under a mandate that they require their staff to be vaccinated and masked while at work. BVCA pays these employees salaries and whatever benefits they might have that come with those salaries. By agreement with the school district, we have them help in our classrooms. So this still makes them Blue Valley Community Action employees and ultimately under the purview of Blue Valley Community Action. So whatever issues they may be mandated under that mandate from the federal government, we're really not in control of any of that. They work in our building and have to agree to those mandates with their employer. We're not their employer. We simply have them work in our classroom. So I just wanted to clarify anything that might be out there, any confusion as to what might come in the future. But that's where that's at. So item 10, the next item is graduation requirements. As you know, in the last committee of the whole meeting, we talked about communications and we talked about some of the things that come along with communications, which is in the 5,000 policy series. And the requirements for graduation are also in that. I want you to know that we will be embarking on a discussion about graduation requirements at the next committee of the whole meeting. And basically, I just want you to be prepared to discuss the 260 credit hour requirement that we currently have and understand that we're going to be comparing it to other area schools. We'll probably also compare it to some of our other similar size school districts, analyzing the positives and negatives of the 260-hour graduation requirement, and beginning to understand why you as a Board of Education need to be part of that discussion and decision as to what we do with it moving forward. So I guess it's important that if you have questions about that now, or there's information you want, if you can reach out to us and let us know so you can be prepared for that. It's all in student handbooks as well, but we'll be glad to share whatever you might want with that so you can feel prepared going into that discussion. And then finally, we We currently have some students that help our district through various roles that they play in the district, whether it be with the cafeteria or the custodial crew or different avenues. We've been researching ideas to help with the kitchen staff shortage and the custodial staff shortage. And we were actually forwarded an article where we found a school that is paying students and offering them graduation credit through a school to work program to help in those shortage areas because of everybody's short of help right now. So we have had discussions about that, and we are looking at that as an option to help alleviate some of those shortages we're having, especially in those two areas. The main concern that comes along with that is appropriate supervision of those students at the times that they're helping. So, but I just wanted to make you aware that discussion is out there, and I had a conversation today with Dawn, who operates the kitchen, and she loves the kids that help her currently, so she would welcome more help if it's available, and we'll be looking at that as an option to help alleviate some of that. So with that's all I have for the superintendent report at this time.
Okay, thank you, Jason. Other questions for Jason? All right. So our next meeting, the next regular meeting of the Board of Education will be February 14th, Valentine's Day, 2022 at 7 p.m. in the Administration Building. The Committee of the Whole meeting will be January 27th, 2022 at 6 p.m. in the Administration Building. An agenda for the meeting, which shall be kept continually current, is readily available for public inspection at the Superintendent's office during normal business hours. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 adjourn.
Second. Second by Janet. Votes, please. Motion approves, and we are adjourned.